The stars stretched endlessly across the void, a tapestry of cold light and distant suns. Commander Elias Kane adjusted the controls of his small exploration shuttle, the intrepid Hawk, as it hummed softly under his hands. Humanity had made its tentative steps into the outer galaxy, carving small colonies into unexplored systems. The Luminar Empire, a species older than humanity by millennia, dominated these territories with psychic precision and unwavering tradition. Elias had heard stories about them, tales of their regal hierarchy, their unmatched intellect, and the near-mythical powers of their royal line. Yet here he was, tasked with delivering a peace proposal on behalf of the United Earth Council, and despite the gravity of the mission, he felt a thrill he could not suppress. Just another negotiation, he muttered to himself, trying to calm his racing heart. He had always thrived on danger. Rules and caution bored him, but even he knew this assignment carried more risk than most. The Luminar did not take kindly to outsiders, and humans were often dismissed as impulsive and weak. Elias had no intention of confirming that stereotype. As the shuttle approached Trellix Prime's outer rim, alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing across the dashboard. "Pirates," he muttered under his breath, his hands moving swiftly. A small fleet of armed vessels had appeared from nowhere, their design jagged and unfamiliar, as if cobbled together from the wreckage of other ships. "Evasive maneuvers," he whispered, adjusting the controls. The shuttle shuddered violently under fire, sparks flying from the panels. Elias knew the shields wouldn't hold, not against these attackers. With a steady hand, he steered the intrepid Hawk toward a nearby uncharted moon. The surface rose to meet him like a promise of sanctuary, dense forests and jagged cliffs sprawling beneath a faint mist. The shuttle crashed violently, tearing through the undergrowth before coming to a halt. Elias groaned, pain shooting through his shoulder, but he forced himself upright. He had survived worse, and he knew this was only the beginning. As he surveyed the wreckage, movement caught his eye. Among the shadows of alien trees, a figure approached. Tall, lithe, and radiant, with hair that shimmered like liquid silver and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Princess Ciliara. Elias blinked, hardly believing what he saw. She moved with a grace no human could mimic, her gaze assessing him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice melodic yet commanding. Elias stared. Her accent was alien, musical, and carried the subtle authority of royalty. "Neither should you," he replied, trying to regain some measure of control. "Looks like we're both stranded." Her lips quirked into a faint, amused smile. "Perhaps," she said, stepping closer, "or perhaps fate has other plans." The tension was immediate. Elias had faced death in the void, hostile worlds and merciless mercenaries, but nothing prepared him for the intensity radiating from Ciliara. She was more than beauty, she was power, and she knew it. Hours passed as they found shelter in a cave, the forest's mist curling around the entrance like protective tendrils. The night was alive with strange sounds, alien calls echoing through the trees. Elias watched Ciliara closely, noting how she moved, how she scanned the surroundings, how her eyes seemed to pierce the darkness. Despite her calm exterior, there was a tension, a vulnerability she did not show. "I am here to observe," she finally said, breaking the silence. "Your species is unpredictable, reckless, yet capable of ingenuity I wanted to see for myself." Elias raised an eyebrow. "You studied humans by crashing into a forest with me." He offered a wry smile, though his heart beat faster. There was something about her presence that made even his practiced bravado feel inadequate. Ciliara's gaze softened, though only slightly. "I did not expect to find connection, yet it is there." She hesitated, glancing toward the cave's entrance. "There is little time. Danger approaches and we are exposed." For the first time, Elias saw a flicker of fear in her eyes, and it drew him in. Humans had a tendency to act in the moment, to follow instinct, and he could sense her fascination with that. They had been strangers minutes ago, yet now they shared a bond forged in survival. The forest around them whispered with movement. Strange predators, small but vicious, began to circle their shelter. Elias instinctively positioned himself in front of her, scanning for threats. Ciliara's hand brushed against his arm, a light touch that conveyed more than words ever could. "We must move," she said. "I know of a safe place, but it requires trust." Elias nodded. Trust was not something he gave lightly, yet he found himself following her into the mist, guided by instinct and an unspoken understanding. They navigated the alien landscape with precision, their bodies moving in harmony despite the differences of species and language. By dawn, they reached a crystalline spring, water shimmering in colors he could not name. Ciliara gestured for him to drink, and he obeyed. The water was invigorating, restoring strength he hadn't realized he had lost. As they sat by the spring, exhaustion overtaking them, the barriers between them began to fade. "You are unlike other humans," she said quietly. "You survive when you should perish. You adapt. You endure." Elias chuckled softly. "We have to, don't we? Life doesn't hand out second chances, especially out here." Her eyes softened, and the tension between them shifted. In the quiet moments, surrounded by alien beauty and the weight of stars above, attraction blossomed. Elias, who had always relied on courage and instinct, felt something deeper, a connection that defied reason. Ciliara's gaze lingered on him, and he understood without words that she felt it too. Night fell again, and in the isolation of the alien moon, desire overtook caution. They came together in a moment of raw vulnerability, their bond sealed in ways neither had anticipated. It was fleeting, intense, and irreversible. By the time they parted, dawn was breaking over the crystalline spring, casting a glow across their entwined forms. Ciliara rose, her expression serene yet tinged with urgency. "You must understand," she said. "What has begun will change everything. You are not just a participant in this moment. You are integral to what comes next." Elias frowned, still catching his breath. "What do you mean?" She looked into his eyes, her voice low and trembling with something unspoken. "I am with child, your child, our child." The words hit him like a comet striking a barren planet. He staggered back, disbelief warring with awe. "Impossible," he whispered. I don't even know what that means for me, for the galaxy." Ciliara placed a hand on his shoulder, firm and resolute. "It means danger. It means attention you cannot imagine. And it means you have a responsibility you cannot deny. Your child will be more than either of us. It will carry the legacy of two worlds." Elias sank to his knees, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. For a long moment, he could only stare at the alien princess who had changed everything about his life. Finally, he whispered, "Then we survive. We survive for them, whatever it takes." Ciliara nodded, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and hope. "Then we begin." The days that followed were a blur of survival and preparation. The forest was alive with predators, some small and quick, others massive and territorial. Elias and Ciliara hunted, foraged, and fortified a hidden grove near the spring. They spoke little of their fears, focusing instead on what had to be done. Elias marveled at the strength and resilience of Ciliara, the way she read the environment with uncanny precision. And he began to notice subtle changes in himself, moments of clarity, intuition that felt almost alien. One night, under a sky glittering with unfamiliar constellations, Ciliara revealed more about the consequences of their union. "The Luminar will not forgive what has happened," she said. "They will see this as a violation of our laws, a threat to the royal line. Some will try to kill the child before it is born. Others may attempt to use it for their own power." Elias felt a surge of determination he had never known. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as impulsive and fragile. But here, in the face of overwhelming odds, he felt the truth of his species. Humans survived. Humans adapted. humans endured. And now the fate of the galaxy rested in part on him and what he had brought into existence. Ciliara leaned against him, her voice barely above a whisper. "We are not alone. Even the smallest acts of courage can ripple across the stars. You will see, Elias Kane. Humanity is not what they think. You are proof." As dawn broke again, casting pale light across the crystalline waters, Elias made a silent vow. No matter what forces rose against them, alien empires, political machinations, or the dangers of the untamed galaxy, they would endure. Together, they would protect the child, and in doing so, prove that humanity's courage and cunning could not be denied. For the first time, he understood the weight of what he carried. Not just a child, not just a life, but the hope of two worlds intertwined. And in that quiet moment, Elias Kane, human explorer, soldier, and survivor, realized that the galaxy had no idea what was coming. And that was exactly how it should be. The forest of the uncharted moon was quiet, almost deceptively calm, as if it were holding its breath for the storm that was coming. Commander Elias Kane had learned to read the signs of danger here, the subtle rustle of leaves, the distant cry of a predator, the sudden silence that always preceded a threat. But even in this alien wilderness, the threats he faced now were not merely animals or environmental hazards. They were political, invisible yet deadly, and they could reach him anywhere. Ciliara sat across from him by the crystalline spring, her silver hair shimmering in the soft light of the twin moons. Her expression was serious, more so than ever before. She was still beautiful, still commanding, but there was a weight to her presence now, an unspoken urgency. Elias watched her, sensing that the calm they had shared in the days after the revelation of the heir was already slipping away. "They know," she said finally, her voice low. "The news has spread. Among the Luminar, whispers are already turning into accusations. Some see the child as a threat to the royal line, others see it as an opportunity, and some want it destroyed." Elias clenched his fists, his mind racing. Humans had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. Assassins, spies, alien politics, all focused on a child not yet born. "Then we fight," he said, his voice firm, his human stubbornness rising to the surface. "We survive. No one touches our child. No one." Ciliara's gaze softened and she reached for his hand. "I know, Elias. But survival will require more than courage. It will require strategy, cunning, and alliances we cannot yet see." The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Elias learned more about the Luminar than he had in all his years studying alien cultures. They were meticulous, calculating, and unrelenting. Their political games were dangerous, but they also revealed a surprising truth. Even the oldest empires underestimated humans. They believed impulsiveness would be our downfall. But Elias and the unborn child within him were about to prove otherwise. Using the natural terrain of the forest to their advantage, Elias and Ciliara fortified their hidden grove. They set traps, created safe routes, and learned to move silently, blending with the alien wilderness. Each day, Elias felt a strange energy building within him, subtle at first, a heightened awareness, sharper reflexes, insights that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as if the child, though unborn, was already influencing him, guiding him in ways that defied reason. One evening, as they rested by the spring, Ciliara shared more about her people. "The Luminar value lineage above all else," she said. "They believe in the purity of the royal bloodline. What has occurred, what we have done, will be seen as a violation. Some may call for your death, others for mine, and yet others for the child's elimination before it can change anything." Elias frowned, absorbing her words. The stakes were higher than he had imagined. He had faced pirates, hostile planets, and merciless mercenaries, but nothing had prepared him for the calculated, patient danger of an empire that had survived for thousands of years. "Then we need allies," he said finally. People who can see the value in survival, who can act where we cannot. Humans have allies too, and some of the Luminar, I'm sure there are those who will understand that this child could unite rather than destroy. Ciliara nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. Perhaps. But the first step is to survive the immediate threat. That is always the hardest. Their plans were soon put to the test. Scouts from rival factions appeared in the forest, subtle and careful, moving through the trees with deadly precision. Elias and Ciliara evaded them at first, using every trick they had. But one night the scouts set a trap. Hidden explosives, camouflaged pits, and psychic disruptors aimed to neutralize them. Elias felt the approach long before he saw it. The heightened senses, the strange connection he had been feeling with the unborn child, warned him of danger. He acted instinctively, signaling Ciliara and moving with a speed and precision that surprised even him. The traps were avoided, the scouts scattered, and the pair emerged unscathed. "That was too close," Ciliara said, her voice trembling slightly. "They are already adapting to our methods. They are patient. They will not give up." Elias set his jaw. "Neither will we. Humans survive. We adapt. We endure. That's what we do." The days turned into weeks, each filled with tension, survival, and the growing realization that the child they carried was extraordinary. It seemed to influence events in subtle ways. Alerts Elias to dangers he could not see, guided their movements with uncanny timing, and even seemed to communicate through feelings and instinct. The bond between Elias, Ciliara, and the unborn child deepened, a silent triad of trust, hope, and determination. One night, under the pale light of the moons, Ciliara spoke of the wider consequences of their union. The factions within the Luminar are already divided. Some see the child as a symbol of potential, a bridge between species. Others see it as a threat to tradition and power. We cannot predict what actions they will take, but we must assume the worst. There are those who will come for the child, and for you, Elias. Everywhere you go, danger follows. Elias' gaze hardened. Then we make them regret underestimating us. Humanity is not weak. We don't bow. We fight and we survive. If they come, we will show them what humans are capable of. The first real assault came days later. A fleet of ships, small but lethal, emerged from the atmosphere above the moon. Laser beams tore through the forest, targeting their hiding place with deadly precision. Elias and Ciliara took cover, moving with coordinated efficiency. Elias set traps, guided Ciliara, and fought with a skill and ferocity that made the attackers hesitate. It was not brute force alone that saved them. It was ingenuity. Using the terrain, the psychic interference of Ciliara, and quick-thinking improvisation, they turned the attackers against each other, forcing the fleet to retreat. The victory was small but significant. It sent a message, not just to the Luminar factions, but to anyone who would underestimate humanity. Ciliara's eyes shone with pride and something deeper. "You are remarkable," she whispered. "More than I imagined. And the child, it is already changing things. Already making us stronger." Elias smiled, though he was exhausted. "We are stronger together. And humanity has always survived against impossible odds. We never back down." The days that followed were filled with tension and preparation. The forest became their fortress, their sanctuary, and their battlefield. Every movement, every choice was calculated. Elias trained with Ciliara, learning to harness the heightened abilities that seemed to come from within him. Reflexes, intuition, perception, all sharpened to an edge that allowed them to survive attacks that would have killed ordinary humans. Meanwhile, rumors of their survival spread beyond the moon. Humans in nearby colonies began to take notice, watching with fascination as Elias evaded attacks that should have ended him. Even among the Luminar, whispers began to circulate of a human who had survived impossible odds, protected the heir of a royal line, and demonstrated courage and cunning that rivaled their most disciplined warriors. One evening, Ciliara approached him quietly, her expression serious. "The next attack will not come from scouts or small fleets," she said. "It will come from the political heart of the Luminar Empire itself. They will send assassins, diplomats, and warriors. Everything they have. They will not stop until they either destroy the child or take it for themselves." Elias nodded. "Then we prepare, we anticipate, we adapt, and we fight. Humans don't give up. We endure no matter the odds, no matter the enemy." In the quiet moments between danger, they shared fleeting moments of peace, bonding over shared meals, the beauty of the alien forest, and the strange joy of watching the child grow within Ciliara. Elias marveled at the uniqueness of the situation. Never in human history had a being existed that combined human resilience with alien psychic potential. This child would be extraordinary, and the galaxy would notice. But danger was never far away. One night, a group of elite assassins infiltrated the forest, moving with deadly precision. Elias and Ciliara sensed them almost immediately, the unborn child alerting them in subtle ways, an unease, a whisper of psychic disturbance, a sudden instinct that directed them. They fought with coordination and cunning, turning traps and misdirection against their attackers. The battle was fierce but brief. By dawn, the assassins were gone, retreating with injuries and confusion. Elias stood among the wreckage, breathing heavily, his mind alive with adrenaline. Ciliara approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "They will not stop," she said softly, "but neither will we." Elias looked at her, at the forest, at the strange light of the moons. He understood fully that survival was not enough. They had to be proactive. They had to become the threat others feared. Humanity had always been underestimated, but now, with the child, they had the chance to change the balance of power in the galaxy. He spoke with quiet determination. "Then we show them why humans survive, why humans endure, why humans are not to be dismissed. This child will be a bridge, yes, but it will also be proof that we are more than they think. We will make them see it." Ciliara nodded, her eyes reflecting both pride and hope. "Then let them come. Let them challenge us. They will learn, as I have, that humans are formidable in ways they cannot predict." The moon was silent once more, but the air carried the promise of coming storms. Elias knew the path ahead would be treacherous, filled with political intrigue, assassination attempts, and battles across stars and worlds. Yet, for the first time, he felt a surge of hope and power that went beyond human limits. The child within Ciliara, the bond they shared, and the resilience of humanity would guide them. And as the twin moons rose high, casting their pale light across the crystalline waters, Elias Kane made a silent vow. Whatever came next, luminar politics, alien fleets, or impossible odds, they would survive. Humanity would endure, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The first chapter of their struggle was over. The real battle, the one for survival, recognition, and the future of two worlds intertwined, was only beginning. The twin moons of the uncharted moon cast pale silver light over the forest, illuminating every detail with eerie clarity. Commander Elias Kane stood at the edge of their hidden grove, his senses alert to every movement. The attacks had escalated. Scouts, assassins, and small fleets had all failed to reach them, but Elias knew that the true threat was not some random enemy. It was the Luminar Empire itself. The factions within it would not rest until the child was under their control or destroyed. Ciliara joined him, her presence calm but firm. Her silver hair glimmered in the moonlight, her eyes reflecting determination. Elias felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, heavier than any starship, heavier than any battle he had faced. But he had learned to trust in something more powerful than weapons or strategy. He had learned to trust in the strength of humanity, in the resilience that had carried him through impossible odds, and in the unborn child whose presence was already shaping their destiny. "They are coming," Ciliara said softly, her voice barely above the whisper of the wind. "They have sent everything they can spare. This time it is not scouts, not small fleets. The Empire itself moves against us." Elias nodded. "Then we fight," he said. "Not just to survive, but to prove that humans do not back down, that we endure, that we adapt, that we are a force even empires must respect." The first assault came with the dawn, a fleet of sleek ships dropping from the atmosphere, their designs unmistakably luminar. Psi-emitters glowed across their hulls, devices meant to disorient, confuse, and manipulate the mind. Elias and Ciliara had anticipated something like this. Using the forest as cover, they moved swiftly, avoiding detection, setting traps, and preparing for the confrontation they knew would decide the fate of the child. The battle began quietly, almost invisibly. Small drones swarmed the forest, scanning for life. Elias and Ciliara used psychic interference and human ingenuity to turn the drones against one another. Explosives, sound traps, and misdirection turned the hunters into the hunted. Elias marveled at how his instincts had sharpened beyond ordinary limits. It was as if the child's presence within Ciliara had already begun to shape him, connecting him to forces beyond comprehension. When the first wave of elite warriors arrived on foot, the forest erupted into chaos. Elias moved with precision, coordinating with Ciliara, each aware of the other's movements without the need for words. They fought as one, humans and Luminar combined in strategy, skill, and instinct. Every attack, every defense was calculated, yet improvisation allowed them to stay one step ahead. The elite forces faltered, their confidence shattered by the unpredictable efficiency of humans who refused to be outmatched. As the battle intensified, Elias realized that survival alone would not suffice. He needed to make a statement, a demonstration that humanity was not merely resilient, it was formidable. Using the terrain, the psychic interference, and rapid, unpredictable tactics, he lured the enemy fleet into a trap. Hidden ravines, natural cliffs, and explosive devices decimated their forces, forcing the retreat of the remaining ships. In the aftermath, Ciliara approached him, her expression both proud and awed. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have shown them that humans are not to be underestimated. You have proven it beyond doubt." Elias allowed himself a brief smile. "We survived because we had to, because we must, and because we do not give up. That is what humans are. We endure." But even as they celebrated their small victory, they knew the war was far from over. Factions within the Luminar Empire began to recognize the potential of the child. Whispers spread of a being that combined human cunning with Luminar psychic potential, a hybrid capable of bridging species, changing alliances, and redefining power. Some sought to use this potential for conquest, others sought to eliminate it entirely. Elias and Ciliara had become the focal point of political intrigue and power struggles that spanned systems. They could not fight every battle physically. Some wars had to be won with minds and alliances. Elias reached out to human colonies nearby, sharing information and securing support. Colonists offered ships, resources, and intelligence. Even among the Luminar, there were those who recognized the danger of ignoring humanity. Some sympathetic nobles provided information and subtle aid, believing that the hybrid child could stabilize the empire rather than threaten it. Elias and Ciliara prepared for the final confrontation. The empire was sending its most skilled commanders, warriors, and psychic elites. This was no longer a skirmish. It was a decisive moment, a test of strength, strategy, and willpower. Every decision mattered. Every movement could mean survival or annihilation. When the main fleet arrived, stretching across the horizon like a shadow of inevitability, Elias stood at the forefront with Ciliara beside him. The child within her seemed to sense the tension, subtle tremors and intuitive guidance helping them anticipate attacks before they happened. It was as if the unborn heir was already participating in the battle, a quiet, guiding force that lent them extraordinary insight. The battle began in earnest, a clash of technology, strategy, and psychic power. Luminar fleets unleashed devastating energy blasts, attempting to break the forest and force them into open space where the human defenses would falter. Ilias countered with traps, decoys, and ambushes, leading attackers into narrow ravines and hidden trenches. Ciliara amplified the psychic interference, disorienting enemy pilots and soldiers alike. Even the elites, trained in combat and strategy for decades, struggled to keep pace with the unpredictable, improvisational tactics of Ilias and the synergy between him and Ciliara. Every engagement highlighted a single undeniable truth. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not predictable. Humanity endured, adapted, and overcame. At the height of the battle, Ilias took a calculated risk. He led a small team, including a few loyal human allies and sympathetic Luminar, to infiltrate the flagship of the attacking fleet. Moving through the enemy vessel with silent precision, they disabled command systems, sabotaged weapon arrays, and created chaos within the fleet. The result was immediate. The attacking forces faltered, their coordination destroyed, and retreat became inevitable. Back in the forest, Ciliara used her psychic abilities to ensure the safety of the remaining attackers, turning the chaos into a decisive advantage. Ilias watched, awe and pride mingling in his chest. Humanity had not only survived, they had dictated the terms of the conflict. When the dust settled, the forest was quiet again, illuminated by the pale moons. The remaining Luminar forces had retreated, their pride wounded, their perception of humans forever altered. Ilias and Ciliara stood together, exhausted but unbroken. The child within her stirred, a gentle pulse of life that seemed to carry both promise and power. Ciliara looked at Ilias, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the moons and something deeper, a recognition of what they had achieved together. "The galaxy has seen it now," she said softly. "They know that humans are not to be underestimated, that we endure, that we adapt, that we survive against impossible odds, and the child will be a living testament to this truth." Ilias nodded, feeling a surge of pride and responsibility. He had always known humans were resilient, but seeing it demonstrated on such a scale, against an empire older than any human civilization, was profoundly validating. "They will have to respect us," he said quietly. "They will have to acknowledge that humanity is not a species to be dismissed." But amidst the victory, Ilias knew the challenges were only beginning. Political machinations within the Luminar Empire would continue, alliances would shift, and threats would arise from unexpected places. Yet he also knew that they now had proof that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, proof that the unborn child was more than a symbol, proof that survival and ingenuity could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Over the following weeks, Ilias and Ciliara worked to stabilize their position. Human allies helped fortify the moon, creating hidden bases and communication networks. Sympathetic Luminar facilitated secret negotiations, ensuring that the hybrid child would be protected and respected. Rumors of Ilias' daring and Ciliara's loyalty spread across systems, inspiring both awe and caution. Ilias marveled at the transformation, not just of their immediate situation, but of the perception of humanity itself. Humans, once dismissed as impulsive and weak, were now seen as cunning, brave, and resilient. Even the most powerful factions of the Luminar began to reconsider their assumptions. Ilias felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that his species had proven itself in ways that could not be ignored. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise, Ciliara placed her hand on Ilias' arm. "We have done what few could have imagined," she said. "But the child will be the true bridge, the true force that can unite worlds." And you, Elias, have shown that humans are worthy of standing beside the greatest powers of the galaxy. Elias smiled, a rare moment of quiet triumph. We survived, he said simply, together, and we will continue to survive no matter what comes. Humanity endures, we adapt. We overcome, and now we are seen. The months passed, and the forest became a sanctuary and a symbol. The child grew within Ciliara, carrying the promise of two worlds intertwined. Aliens and humans alike began to acknowledge the significance of their union. Diplomats who had once dismissed humans as reckless were now cautious, recognizing the potential that Elias represented. In time, the first public acknowledgement of the child came, a peaceful gesture from a faction within the Luminar Empire that had observed the courage and ingenuity of the humans. Elias and Ciliara stood before representatives of the Empire, holding the promise of the unborn heir between them. The audience was tense, yet Elias felt no fear. He had faced impossible odds before, and humanity had always endured. The room was silent as Ciliara spoke, her voice steady and commanding. This child is a symbol of unity, of resilience, and of courage. It is proof that humanity is not to be underestimated. It is a bridge between worlds, a force for understanding, and a testament to what is possible when we embrace rather than dismiss one another. Whispers spread through the chamber, some skeptical, others awed. Elias stepped forward, his voice firm. Humans survive, we endure. We adapt, and we will continue to prove that resilience, courage, and ingenuity are strengths that no empire can ignore. We are here, and we are not to be dismissed. The chamber fell silent again, but the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and the unborn child was the living proof of what could be achieved when courage met opportunity. Elias and Ciliara returned to the forest that night, holding hands, their bond stronger than ever. The child stirred within Ciliara, a gentle pulse of life and potential. Elias knew that the challenges ahead would be many, but for the first time he felt certain of one thing. Humanity had proven itself, not through force alone, but through courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to be underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity, with its unpredictable spirit and boundless resilience, was finally being recognized as a force worthy of respect, even fear. The first chapter of a new era had begun, and the story of Elias Kane, Ciliara, and their child would echo across the stars for generations to come.